Hey guys, today we're going to make one of my signature brushes, which is like this in this orange painting. This is also basically the effect of the same brush, the sparkly thing that you see. It's kind of like glitter that is glued to the canvas, but it also has the digital quality to it, because if you really zoom in, then this is a downsized image. The original canvas, there is a definite definition to it, which is uniquely digital, but it feels traditional as well. So all of this part, so we're going to create that. So just made a brush like that. So it's wet. If you decrease the opacity, it starts to get more of the sparkle, and it becomes more opaque and more colorful as you decrease the opacity. And this I love, just outline. That's the point of the signature brush. When you are done with a painting and you want to do these fun things, and of course we have different colors too. Let's try something else. Right? It's a lot of fun. So let's make this again. Okay, new brush, brand new brush. Shape, import source library. Go to grain source and this one, floral, done. Okay, so we have this. The jet engine sound, by the way, is my Mac playing OBS through which I'm recording. Shape, stroke path, increase the spacing to your taste. The benefit of spacing is when the brush becomes bigger, and because it's going to be a wet brush, suppose it becomes big in size and it just, grabs an edge of an existing paint, then you see this big design like this. And it's interesting. Okay, so that's done. Done. New brush again. Done. Just default brush. Select brush 1 as a primary brush. Select the second one. Combine. Combine in normal mode over here. Alright. Get the previous color we had. So this is how it looks right now. So we're going to run through the recipe now. Okay, normal combine mode, rendering, intense blending. Then same place, burnt edges maximum, darken mode. Done. Let's see how that does. So we're getting that sparkle now, a little bit, right? Then the second brush, go to rendering, try something else like uniformed glaze. So with uniformed glaze, we have this opacity thing happening, like watercolor. Clear opacity gradation, perfect. I love this in brushes. It gives you much more control. Like if there's a watercolor brush that can only do like one opacity, and then you go over that with glazing and glazing and glazing, it's just, then it's like watercolor and not so much oil, or like pencil, traditional pencil, which is like oil because it has opacity gradations. Otherwise it's just like a transparent ballpoint pen, isn't it? So that's it. That's basically the recipe. You can adjust the size of the second brush, right? So we can see how much you want it to bleed. So if you do lesser size, then you can see this definite edge mark on the inside. If we blow it up, well then it's just a thing, and with different opacities, yeah, it could be, it depends on what you want. So this crazy stuff over here, this blackness and these unexpected colors, green, like yellow and red, how did green come here? It is because of the normal blend mode, which is a Procreate recipe. You cannot usually find this in other software. This is like this is their blend mode that they've come up through programming, and it just happened to be like this in Procreate. I hope they don't change it, or this imperfection is beautiful to me. So let's go back to a more, more or less just close to the original size. I like this color. Right? So it's not wet right now, so it just overlaps on itself and doesn't pull paint. So let's make it wet. Wet mix, dilution, a little bit. You can get a taste for it in the preview how we want it to be. I can see sharpness in the screen in front of me on the iPad. Doesn't really show it on the screen, but when you do it, you'll see it. Okay, so about 47%. So now we have a watercolor quality. We've lost a little bit of the oil opacity, but if we decrease this opacity, we're going to get that opacity back. Okay, and then it's supposed to pull, so make an opaque mark, increase the opacity, and super pull. Look at that. Like literally pulling everything. So you can alternate between that, put something thick in like 50% opacity, and when you increase the opacity, it begins to pull like crazy. I think it doesn't pull very much at lower opacity, this master opacity, 50% opacity. Yeah, that's basically the brush. You can hear the jet engine. Yeah, that's my Mac, which is the same thing recording my voice. It's recording its own fan probably. And then you can play with sizes to definition detail. I was talking about the large spacing point. So if you have something opaque and doing rapidly do something like this, so you can see this nice stuff happening over here. I don't know if the camera caught that, so let's try again. So we have something opaque, full opacity, maximum size, run it through that like that. So this interesting stuff I like, something unique. So where can we take it from here? So that's the brush. So let's play with it. We can give it a shape or a grain to the second brush. To be honest, it's a little uncomfortable, this jet engine sound. Normally I'm like calm and peaceful and sitting by myself enjoying my brush making, but doing it like this. Okay, so think about this. We have this, and this is going to mingle with the previous, the brush number 1. So let's try something different. Let's try this. Okay, so this is what we have. So the brush 2 is taking the outer contour shape of the brush, I believe. Let's verify that. So if we do something like this, oval, yeah, kind of. Because of the blending mode, there's going to be some bleed from the brush 1 too. So you play with it until you settle with something you love. So this looks nice, like a marker pen. Isn't this cool? When it goes over itself, it negates itself. So black becomes red and red becomes black. See this? So this, and you do this, and then it inverts. So cool. So let's try adding a little bit of taper to it, pressure taper, which makes it like watercolor. You can see this, right? It's tapering. In practical applications, let's go back to a normal shape for brush 2, something like this. See that? The taper in the beginning makes it like watercolor. So if we go to full opacity, it's going to be like watercolor, totally. If you want it to be like oil, I would take off the taper. You just take off the size. You can let this be, because as well, if it's 0 size, then this doesn't matter. So if you want to bring back the taper, you keep this setting, but you just bring back the size. So it saves the setting. Same thing with wet mix. If you have all of these other settings like charge, attack, if you adjust all of your settings and you just want to turn off the wet mix, just turn off the dilution, and when you want to bring it back, you can bring it back, and all of the remaining settings can come back too. Let's try a different dilution, by the way. Let's try 26%. It's more glossy, I feel. And how about opaqueness? 50% opacity, master. Well, you can play with this. I should play with this. I like this sparkly thing. It's showing a little bit of blue and green. On a high resolution canvas, in a print, it will look beautiful. Yeah, this is more aggressive. Low dilution, pulls harder. It's not normal behavior, but from the burnt edges we've put and combination in the normal mode, this is how it's acting. Normally with low dilution, it should pull less because it has less water in it. With high dilution, it has more water in it. But the opacity setting is inverting as well, right? As we decrease the opacity, it is increasing in opacity. As we increase the opacity, it's decreasing. So it is because of the unique recipe. Okay, this is the 1. Okay, so let's name the brush. You can name it Henri if you want. I'll name it Angel. It's not going to type, I know. Yeah, I thought so. Angel demo. No, it's not a demo, it's on playing. Angel playing. Okay. Sign here. Henri. Then I love to make it useful, the picture, So I do some stuff that is going to demonstrate what the brush is. So see, with low dilution, it is not doing that outline thing. Okay, it's doing the outline thing now with very low opacity. It's at 12%. Okay, so do this, take a screenshot. Put that in the photo. Okay, so it gives you a reminder of what it does. Create new reset point. So if you mess up the settings later on, make sure you hit done, otherwise it's not going to register. So now that we have a reset point, if we mess this up, like do crazy things to it, scatter, and I don't want to be battery heavy on this, so I'll turn off rotation. Right, okay, scatter, spacing, crazy stuff. So now the brush is altered, but we can go back to it. I like this though. Ooh, this is cool. I'm going to keep this brush because I already have the original. So you could duplicate it and then reset the previous one. So then the new one you have, you reset it with the reset point. Like, let's do that actually. Duplicate. So go to the previous one, about this brush, reset, done. So this is like this now, but this is like this. Ooh, nice. That's the stamp of the shape. So you can change the shapes too. I'm going to duplicate this first. Right, so shape, try something else. We took grain last time. Let's do shape. I'll take Nico's favorite, acrylic dab 5. Nice. I like. Ooh. This is fun. Oh, that is so icy. I love it. So I'm changing the opacity. This is endless fun. But Procreate is a battery hog, by the way, with brushes like these. So these are for finishing touches. Like, you would have an artwork like this, and if you do something like, ooh, oh, sorry. Something like, then that's it. That's the end of the painting. That's your signature brush. A brush is a brush when you use it in a painting because it becomes more important to you after that. And people have seen it and it gains value. I love this. What is happening here? I wish I put it this particular mark on the original Angel painting. There's no way to put it on there, this particular mark, because it's unique, right? I could probably like do a stamp, but it's never going to be the same again. Because we've programmed randomness in this, right? We have scatter, so scatter is at 104. So, so if you change the scatter, then it becomes like this. The two strokes are usually not the same. I think they are similar though. I can see the same rhythm. Yeah, it is the same. So you can change that to scatter. Let's put it at 100. See, usually I think with programming, values like 50, 100, they're easier on the software. Like, it's like 0 or 100. So the software can optimize the performance. If it is like something in between, like 38, then it's going to have to, you know, mix more floating point type of calculations, I'm guessing. Because the results are going to be so does this have the watercolor pulling thing? It kind of does, but because of the scatter, it's like that. But still, then because of the shape, it's throwing those squares at it. I want something grainy. Let's try this. Flicks. Okay. We're 21 minutes in. Does it pull? It should, but it is going to bake the pixels that are underneath it. So you have to be mindful of that. I wouldn't use this for proper rendering and stuff. This is for special effects. So change the size. So different sizes, different opacities. I like these two ice cubes. Okay, what else can we do? You can endlessly play with shapes. If you are at a really good point in the brush, but you want some kind of customization in the shape, you should transfer that shape with a screenshot or something in Procreate, and you should carve on top of it, draw in black and white, and make sure it is like that. I refine my brushes like that sometimes. Then it's unique, isn't it? Then it's not just default Procreate stuff. Nico imports crazy stuff, like import a photo, let's say. Like he'll import eggshells and things like that. Adjust the spacing. Okay, now let's put some grain on the second brush. I cannot see very much of the grain. By the way, you can change and play with the rendering modes of both the brushes. That is also the part of the recipe. So the recipe is the normal mode, combination of two brushes, then burnt edges, and the rendering modes of the two brushes. The specific combination of, the permutations, you can play with those and end up with your own recipe. So these blending modes in render setting, then these burnt edges, you can decrease these to like 50%. We've been using 100% so far. This is 50%. right? So burnt edges 0 to 100, normal mode is constant, rendering modes you can shuffle and see various combinations. So first brush is intense blending, which is like intense oil painting mode. Second brush is an intense glaze right now. Originally we put it in uniformed glaze, which is watercolor. If I put this in intense blending too, let's see what happens. Get the nice color. I think I just switched my brush by mistake. This one. So that's what we have because of the grain now. The grain we put on the second brush. So full opacity is pulling heavily. It is obliterating the pigment on canvas. So this canvas texture is the grain we put. We can change that to a desired effect. I like the grain. Let me show you. Stickman it's called. I think it's in a shape then. This one, solid rectangles. This is a good shape, but we're using it as a grain right now. It is a very interesting shape, the stickman, the thing, rectangles. I've made some oil painting brushes with it. If you adjust the spacing and stuff, it is rectangular, but when you adjust the spacing and stuff, it becomes organic with all the settings, like randomized and stuff in the shape settings. I'll leave it for you to find out. I won't demonstrate that. So grain, switch to something else. Let's try this one, brick. So it's like that. Cool, right? So we have this brick texture with it's supposed to have a sparkling quality, right? So put the rendering mode of the second one in uniform glaze. Let's see if that works. Right, so full opacity. Do we have the brick? Well, it's fading a little bit, the brick texture, but we can probably play with that. Okay, so this is quite strong, which means uniform glaze is probably too light for it. We could try heavy glaze, which would be like a middle ground. So you can see the stamp of the brick here, but we should get a sparkling quality as well. Cool, right? So yeah, full opacity, brick, less, and it pulls too. Should pull. We can play with the wet mix dilution. Let's try full dilution. So it's pulling now, and we can endlessly play with it until it is perfect. So really pulls. Lower opacity, still pulls. Okay. Even lower opacity, should pull lesser. I like this. So it's playing with the opacity and stuff. Be careful of the battery though. It's going to like go from 90 to 50 or 40 in just a few minutes. Alright, so the signature brush is this one, Angel Plane. Let me demonstrate it one time again. Watercolor, pulls itself. Lower opacity, still watercolor, but more with opacity. And then becomes brighter, more sparkly. and then changes hue a little bit. The lower opacity you go, and then at about 10%, 12%, it does outlines over itself. And you can do this, which is, and if you do the same thing with full opacity, it's going to like obliterate the edge. So if you have something like a very sharp edge and do this, it blends nicely. See that? I see a lot of definition on screen. This would look beautiful in print. In a very large print, this would be a detail. Unfortunately, you can't do this with vector. All right, thank you. Knowledge preserved. So knowledge is our Angèle recipe. Let's write it down so it's permanently in history books. Angèle recipe. Combine dual brushes in normal mode. Number 2, burnt edges to 100% in darken mode. You can only adjust the burnt edges for brush 1. There is no burnt edges on brush 2 in a dual brush in Procreate right now. And right now is 5th September 2021, my dad's birthday today. Happy birthday, Dad. I wished him in person. Okay, burnt edges. Point number 3 is, see, what was that? Combined it. Okay, so we combined it in normal mode, put burnt edges on it, so this gives it a sparkly quality. To make it wet, you can, well, this is the Angèle recipe basically, these two things. Then, if you want to make it like watercolor and pull paint like this, like over here you can see, put wet like dilution to about 47%. You could put taper on it if you want. Yeah, so this part, darken mode and normal mode, burnt edges, that's the recipe. How did I come up with such a recipe? It's magic. Lots of trial and error. So let me show the original Angèle brush, the one that I used in the painting. It's like this. Basically the same thing, with you have to fill in the gaps, what shape this is, and you can use various colors on it. Something that looks natural. This is too sparkly, so I'll increase the opacity. Yeah, that feels nice. I like it. Don't you like it? Let's see what happens with black and gray. Ooh, nice. I like it. Yes. I love the song Me Like You by Jay Park. Ah, that's beautiful. I don't want to leave. This is a variation of the original brush, the original one. This is more for smudging. Look at this. This is a 3000 canvas, I believe. Yeah, 3000 by 3000. I work on 4500 by 5500. It gives me 17 layers, Procreate, on that. So iPad Pro 2017. This is a turpentine brush. All of these are custom brushes. I like this one, Gold Leaf. So if you layer this on top of that, that looks so cool. And then you could even put it in various blend modes and stuff, right? Doesn't seem to do much. Okay, we have something, hard light, linear light. Oh, right, it's on the same layer. Gold leaf should be yellow. If we make it very yellow, it should be more sparkly. Gold leaf tends to be gold tends to be orange usually. Put it in a blend mode. Check that out. Look at that. The artist Barandoma does a lot of blend mode stuff recently. He has his own oil painting technique called kneading, where he puts down paint on the canvas and then smudges it so that it looks like oil paint. It's really creative. So lately he's been like importing references on top of paint such as this and putting it in blend modes to create an artistic effect. Textures are very interesting. I haven't explored them very much. I would like to. This is a gesso brush, a gesso style brush. I made it from a gesso brush. I made it into a color dynamics brush. Da Vinci, my favorite brush for doing outlines, except I wish Procreate would stop consuming so much battery with this version, which is almost about to become the AR version now. I'm pretty sure they're working on it very hard, but this version right now, this build is pretty buggy. I'm not using Procreate because of it. I only am using it for finishing touches. And it eats a lot of battery. Artset 4 is more battery efficient than this right now. This one is a taper based brush like I showed you. So when you have a taper, it does these smooth things. If you just flick like that, and if you hold it, then it does the normal stuff. If you flick it, it becomes smoother. This one, Fisherman's Manifesto. All right. Okay, one last one. Glass Shatter. It just does this. It breaks it up though. It's not just a smudge. It has an element of randomness. See how this wavy thing happened over here? It's like a B shape now. It has streaky things in it so that it's not always the same smudge and not just a smudge. It may smudge or may not smudge in a smudge stroke. And this is not a smudging brush, by the way. This is a brush. It kind of acts like a mixer brush. So low pressure, it kind of behaves more predictably. If I put high pressure, it becomes bigger and does interesting things. Alright, I'll see you later. Have fun. And make that brush and use it, please. Show me your artwork.